नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये. So welcome back to Bharatam. Bharatam, at whose heart there is Bhagavad Gita, is something which is unfathomable. It brings about different thoughts in different people, and there's a whole debate around so many different aspects of episodes in Bharatam, which is the very purpose of it. But it's so deep that to be able to say that I know it, I can say that this is what it is to my mind something which is not advisable. It's far too vast and far too intricate and so fascinating, like real life. It's almost like saying that I know. Forget about I know the galaxy, or I know I know the stars or something. You obviously don't know. There are too many of them. There's too much beauty to it. There's too fascinating an order in it, and even now we keep discovering it's that much that we know about the universe. And Bharatam is something like that. But this much is true, that Bharatam is sweeter than water, it is deeper than the sea, it is more generous than the Kalpataru, it is more beautiful than the moon, it's cooler than the moon, it's brighter than the diamond, and something it is something that will cleanse you as you go around hearing it. It cleanses you. Like the Ganges. Huh? Kabir says in one of his dohas that Kabir man nirmal bhaya jaise Ganga neer tab pachi lag hari phire kahat Kabir Kabir. Kabir says his mind has become so pure like Ganga Jal that now Hari, that is Mahavishnu, is coming after him, calling for him Kabir 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 from behind. So, coming back to where we were in Bharatam, we were in the Ganga and we had got out of it. What had happened was, young boy Bhima had been poisoned by Duryodhana, and he had been thrown into the Ganges. So, there he was, he had come outside, and then almost many days it took, and Kunti thought he was almost going to give him up for dead at that time, when Vidura had told nothing had happened to Bhimasena. And then he had come back with the great joy of Kunti, and to the great surprise and shock of Duryodhana that he had come back, and Duryodhana tried to poison him again, and still nothing happened to him because now he was poison proof. But Duryodhana, the Duratma that he was, he had personally gone and strangled the charioteer of Bhimasena and killed him, just to like a terrorist, leaving a calling card. He had done that. So all that had happened, but so they knew, Kunti and the Pandavas knew that this Duryodhana has got all these kind of evil intentions. But under Vidura's advice, they didn't let off as if they knew anything. They continued to just be as they were. And they were all now young little boys. There was time for them to be. They were playing all the time and all that. So Dhritarashtra, now seeing that that the boys were all engrossed in playing, he decided that it was time to put them to school. So they had to study a bit, etc. So he organized the great teacher Kripacharya of Gautama Gotra to be their teacher for all of them. Kripacharya was a great scholar. He was well versed in all the Vedas. He was a well versed also in Dhanur Veda. He was extremely well versed in Dhanur Veda, with the art of warfare, or art of weapons, and art of warfare, and all of that. He was a parangata in that. So the Pandavas and Kauravas were put to learn Dhanur Veda from Kripacharya. Now this story is being told by Vaishampayana to Janamejaya, and Janamejaya says, Kripacharya, please tell me more about Kripacharya, the teacher, the guru who is teaching the Pandavas and my forefathers, the Pandavas and the Kauravas and all of that. So there was now a guru, and who was teaching them Dhanurveda. And Janamejaya asked Vaishampayana, please tell me about Kripacharya, tell me about him and all of that. So now, so we start from there. महर्षैर् गौतमस्यासीत् शरद्वान् नाम गौतमः पुत्रः किल महाराजः जातः सहचरैर्विभो न तस्य वेदाध्ययने तथा बुद्धिरजायत यथास्य बुद्धिरभवत् धनुर्वेदे परन्तप. There was Mahर्षि Gautama. Every part of India you will go, you will find somewhere Mahर्षि Gautama was there. So they'll say this is Gautama Ashrama. So he is so deeply there in the consciousness of our tradition and our culture. The Godavari river itself starts from the Gautama's ashrama, so to say. Now, Mahर्षि Gautama had a son whose name was Sharadwan. So since he was Gautama's son, he was also called Gautama. He was Sharadwan. And Vaishampayana tells Janmejaya, my king, O king, this child Sharadwan was born in a bed of reeds, arrows reeds. Sharavanam is called. Shara is a reed, which is also used for arrows. Like Murugan was born in a bed of reeds, right? Sharavana is called. Sharavana Bhava. Lord Muruga. Ganges, he had floated and then there he was in the reeds. So likewise, Kripacharya was born, Sharadwan was born in a small thicket of reeds and weeds. And even when he was born with arrows, so to say. So, such was he that his mind, when he was growing up, his mind was not going to Vedadhyanam, whereas it was very much going to Dhanurveda. He was very much more keen to learn Dhanurveda. That was his natural disposition. Each of us has got some natural disposition. No? So, there are 4 children in the family, it will be different. Each one will suddenly take on to different things in life, and probably we get to realize what we really should be doing very late. But we still, the inklings are there that this is what we want to do. So he knew, so he wanted to do, his buddhi was for Dhanurveda. Now, Sharadwan, the son of Gautama, he was great in Dhanurveda, he became very, very good. And he also not just was great in Dhanurveda, he did terrific tapasya as well. So he got a lot of tapa balam. In those days it was very clear, everybody worth his salt knew that you also need to do tapasya. So tapasya adds to your greatness in whatever else also that you do. So he did a lot of tapasya, he got a lot of tapa balam. In fact, he became so terrific in his power that Indra got worried. Indra always gets worried when such people are there. And he's got a standard technique which works all the time. Until today it works. So he has to send some Apsara or some Devakanya or something. And, almost every person, Tapasvi, etc. will fall. That happens. So there it was. So he sent a special Devakanya called Janapadi with special instructions that you need to create Vigna. You need to create obstacles in the Sharadwan's tapasya. He is becoming, a problem for us. So she had gone, and he was there he was there in that forest ashrama of his. And she went there. It's a beautiful ashram, Brahmaniya ashram. And she went and she did what she was asked to do, Lobhaya Masa. So she made him rule, so to say. He saw her, a matchless beauty and all that. And Vaishampayana tells Janmejaya, his eyes blossomed with joy. Prafullot Nayana Abhaval. His eyes just filled with joy, tapasya and all that. But there she was in front of him, so beautiful and all that. And so what happened? Dhanushcha tasya karabhyam upatat bhuvi vepatuscha vitam drishtva shariram samajayata. So when he saw her like that, the bow and arrow that he was holding in his hand just fell. It just fell on the ground. And he started trembling. Vepatuscha, he started trembling. But he was not a simple, ordinary guy. He was a tapasvi, and he was a Sharadwan, he was Gautama's son. So he was a Jnanagariya, he was the one who was very much advanced in the path of Jnana, and he has tapashakti. So he did not, He stayed within his maryada. I mean, yes, there it was in front of him. His eyes had blossomed in joy. There was this moment when he was completely taken in by her and he was completely one with her in mind, so to say. The thing has fallen from his hand, but he did not do anything wrong like that. And he decided that what he should do, he had presence of mind. He said, I have to leave this place immediately. So he decided to abandon that place, abandon that ashrama. He abandoned, as in where, say, that condition that he was. So he left his bow, he left his arrows, he left his Krishna. He used to wear this black deer skin. And there was black deer skins of his that he used to change. All of that, he left it there. He left that apsara there. He went away. Sharadvan went away. But you see, what happens is that one moment of loss of control in the mind created that baby. So there was a baby born. Right? So you say in our, the tapasvis, the Shakti of the mind is so much that you really don't need to go through the whole process. The very sankalpa of that Shakti, of that power at that moment. Because you see, after all, even when you read the explanation of what is creation, etc., you say the I thought rises and the world gets created, right? So even for you and me, our world gets created first thing in the morning after deep sleep when the I thought rises, and then there is the world. Okay. So what to talk of within that relative realm, a tapasvi can create anything by sankalpa. But here it's and the fact that at that one point in time he had lost he had in his mind he had been attracted to her and all that for that moment. The child was born, but he had gone away. He left that place and gone, and not just one child. It was a twin child born. So there was one little baby boy and a little baby girl born and left in that same bed of arrows, reeds in that place where his ashrama was. His ashrama left, he abandoned. Apsara had done her job. She went back. She couldn't care for the babies. So these two little babies were there, lying on on that forest floor, and they were crying and all that. What little babies do, and they were there. And at that time, as destiny would have it, King Raja Shantanu, you know, right? Shantanu is Bhishma's father. Huh? Shantanu, he came hunting there. He came hunting to that forest along with a band of soldiers, etc. Rajas do shikar. So he had come to that forest and he was there. And some soldier from his group heard this baby crying, and he went that side and he found two little babies and crying, and one small little baby boy and small little baby girl, twins obviously by the looks of it, and shining like anything, and lying next to bow, arrows and all that. And then there is the deer skin, etc., hung here and there and on the ground, and he could very well make out that this is a rishi's ashrama. There is some Vedic rishi who should be here. Looked around, nobody was there, only these still small two babies abandoned. So he had enough data now to go and update the king, saying, King, there is some. So, I mean, it's not that he ran away straight away after seeing the babies and to tell the king that two babies are lying there. Then he asked who, what else, etc. He had to have the answer. So he had properly checked and gone back to tell the king that there's two babies here, one baby boy, baby girl. There looks like they're abandoned. They look like obviously some rishis' babies, which are here for whatever reason. There is nobody else there and all that. So he said, I'll come and see. So the king came. And the moment he saw these two little babies, his heart was filled with compassion. Now remember that he has lost this Ganga, his wife, had actually thrown 7 babies into the Ganges. It's only the 8th one that Bhishma survived. So we don't know when exactly this happened, but must be around that time. His heart was filled with compassion to see these two little babies lying there. So he said, we will take them home. So he got them, he picked up and they took them home to his palace, etc. And generally he used to say to people, if anybody asked who these babies are, it's my babies, my kind of thing he used to say. But there is no mention that, later that when Satyavati, etc., she when Vichitravirya dies and she has to look for the lineage, etc., she doesn't consider these to be in that lot of babies, etc. So, you know, he picked up two babies from the forest. Obviously, Satyavati is not going to. She didn't really take it seriously that way. Yeah, nice babies. They'll be taken care of next. So she had probably done that. The queen. Now there's two little babies. Now he had, out of compassion, he had brought them. So he named them like that. So he named this baby boy as Kripa, and he named the girl as Kripi. So Kripa and Kripi, twins. So they were there in Hastinapura. Now the father, Sharadwan, he's a great tapasvi, right? Actual father who had abandoned them. I mean, he didn't know at that time. He had simply left that place and gone. But his tapashakti, he knew that there are now two children, babies, somewhere. He could make out by his tapashakti where they were. So he came. He came without telling anybody. He came to that place and he settled down near where these babies were, etc. And he enlisted himself as their teacher. And he as the children grew up, he told them who they were, acquainted them, etc. This is who I am, this is what's your gotra, this is who you are, this is your tradition and all that. And then he also taught them Dhanurveda. So he was a Dhanurveda Parangata himself. So he taught them, it says. So probably he taught both of them. But certainly he taught Kripa, the son, Dhanurveda. And Bharatam says he taught all four types, four aspects of Dhanurveda. He taught. There are different ways by which you can take these four aspects. Dhanurveda is the Upaveda of actually Yajurveda, one of the Upaveda. Like for example, for the Rig Veda, one of the Upavedas is Ayurveda. For Samaveda, it is Gandharva Veda, dance and music. For Atharvana Veda, it's Thapatya Veda, the Thapatis make the temple architects, all of that field. It's fascinating too. Actually, the amount of shastras that are there for different areas in our Hindu tradition is incredible. Except that we are completely now being cut off from knowing all of that. So we don't know. But even Dhanurveda, for example, is detailed. Even now you can probably get documents and there are maybe some people who know some parts of it. But there are, Dhanurveda as a science has been there. Dhanurveda is not just archery, it is a science of military warfare. So there's a whole subject that is taught to people, especially the princes and the kings and the soldiers, those in the Kshatriya. They will learn Dhanurveda and they will understand that. So it's a deep study, and Dhanurveda is not taught alone. It is also taught with a whole host of other subjects, including arts and all that. So you will find that the kings would also be writing books on music and dance and stuff like that and art. Those days, I mean, it was quite common. So they were very well rounded in terms of what their education was, but Dhanurveda was also there in key in that. So the different types of Dhanurveda, the different types of course, in military warfare, right from strategy to operations was taught there. So there used to be what is the initiation and what is the training to be done and what is the operations, and there are some four aspects like that which are very much in detail. Even right from the day in which, for example, the training has to start or the boy has to be initiated into Dhanurveda, etc. There are deep definitions. It has to be either these stars on that day, on these tithis, on that combination you must start teaching. All of that onwards, it's a very detailed. Vasishtha has written, for example, one of the treatises on Dhanurveda. Vasishtha himself. So about different types of weapons, four types of weapons called Mukta, and Mantra Mukta. Mukta is those weapons which you shoot or rather you free, it goes and flies and hits the other person. So it's Mukta, you release it. Weapons that are released. Amukta is those that you don't release but you fight with like sword, etc. Then Mukta is, you release but you get it back. Those are certain types of weapons. And Mantra Mukta, those are you actually you charge it with mantra and then release it. So there are all these types of weapons are taught how to do it and when to release. And then different types of weapons are taught to different types of students based on what their Actually, the teacher will know what guna the child is. So if it is sattva guna, he'll be taught something. If he is more rajo guna, then he'll be taught some other weapons. If he is mixture of tamas and rajas, he'll be taught another weapon. If it's a lot of tamas in him, he'll be taught another weapon. So they know what is the way to actually go around. Dhanurveda is a detailed science. It's not an ordinary one. So they do all that, and what is an astra, what is a shastra, what is a weapon, what is a weapon which is charged with mantra, what is a pratyastra, what is an anti-missile, weapon to counteract a weapon, what is a paramastra, the fourth type, which is a supernatural weapon. All that is taught. So these are regular weapons. We are not yet going to celestial and all that, but regular weapons, Dhanurvedam part. These children were being, the Sharadvan taught his Kripacharya, this boy, Kripa, the good rahasyas, the rahasyas that are involved in these weapons, etc. These are vast subjects, and everybody will be taught based on their adhikara to the extent that the teacher thinks is right, or they will be able to grasp, etc. And there will always be more. So nobody can say that I know. No, it's always, there will be much more. As they used to say, Dara Singh taught his son Randhava everything. But he didn't teach him one trick. He said, never know, my son might come to challenge him tomorrow. So, ek daav nahi sikhaya, they used to say, that kind of thing. So, but Saradwan taught Kripacharya all the rahasyas, etc. And in a short time, that boy became an acharya himself, Kripacharya. And now Bhishma Dhritarashtra had appointed them with Bhishma's consent as the teachers of Pandavas and Kauravas, and not just Pandavas and Kauravas, the Yadavas also sent their Kshatriyas there to train under him, and he became so well known that kings from all various regions, parts of Bharatakandam, sent their people for training under Kripacharya. So that's how it went. And Pandavas and Kauravas, of course, were the star students for Kripacharya, main students, so to say. And they were very good, and they were quickly learning, etc. And then for certain types of Astra Vidya, which were very special, etc., Kripacharya had asked, there was one more boy staying with him in his own house. So he had asked him, he was very proficient as well. He had asked him to teach the Pandavas and Kauravas certain of the parts of Dhanurveda. The name of the boy we will come to later, but there he was. So one more boy was there who taught them all of that. Now, so these boys were enjoying themselves. Imagine that, these boys learning Dhanurveda and all that stuff. They were very, very happy and learning all these weapons and all that. And one day, these boys, Kauravas and Pandavas, etc., they were out of town. They were outside main Hastinapura, large fields and all of that. So these kids had gone there to play and learn and play, etc. So they were playing, and they were playing the ancient Indian game, which is played till today. That game is called Gulli Danda. So you have the stick and the bail. So it's a very common game in the north of India. It's like cricket, except that it's a stick and a bail. Yeah. You have to hit it. It will go far. You can catch it. You can get out if you catch it. All that stuff is there. So it's fascinating. Like Pittu is there. Kho is there. It's traditional Indian games. So likewise, this Gulli Danda. They are playing Gulli Danda. Vita, it's called in Sanskrit. So they play Gulli Danda. So what happened? This Gulli, that bail, went and fell into a well, a dry well, a deep dry well. It fell into that. Now these boys, Bhimasena, Yudhishthira, all these Pandavas and Kauravas, Duryodhana, all these 100 children, they're all trying to get that bail out, and they couldn't get that bail out. They had no way. It was too deep. It was lying somewhere at the bottom and all that. And Kshatriya boys, they're not giving up. They tried their best, but they couldn't, and they were looking at each other, and they were feeling embarrassed. Lajja was there. We are not able to get this bail out. And they suddenly spotted. Te apashyan brahmanam shyamam apannam palitam krisham krityavantam aduratham agnihotra vraskritam. They found far away, durastham, there was an elderly brahmana, Vaidika, sitting somewhere. He was darkish, shyamam in color, slightly dark. And he had palitam, his hair had grey hair. He was sitting at a distance, and he had just finished his Agnihotra. He had just finished that, and he was sitting. And he was looking like nothing. I mean, he was looking without any utsaha. I mean, there was no enthusiasm in him. He looked as if he was in some distress, worried or anxious, or generally like us. He's looking. So he's all right. He's sitting, huh? And he's there. So these kids, they marched towards him. I mean, these are Kshatriya kids. They are actually used to ordering people around also. But they thought one elderly person is there, we can take his help. So they went around him and they stood surrounding him. Gulli has fallen into the well, and can you help taking it out? So he looked at them and he sized them up and he smiled and he said, Aho Digbalam Shatram. Aho Digbalam Shatram Digetam Kritastratam Bharatasvante Jata Ye Vitam Nadigachata. He said, fie upon Kshatriya Dharma, fie upon the fact that you are Kshatriyas, and fie upon your Astra Vidya. You are not able to take out a bale from a well. What kind of boys are you? Kshatriya boys are you? He asked them. They were shocked. They had now been spoken to like that. They're looking at him with wide eyes. So he said, okay, I'll help you. Listen, I'll tell you, I'll take it out. I'll take this bale out. I will also take out a ring, this ring. I think there are two versions. One is he took out his own ring. The other is he asked Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was there. Obviously, seemed to be some kind of a leader boy there. So his ring. So someone took a ring and he threw that into the well as well. The mudrika. So he threw that. And there was somewhere deep down, there was a bale lying. He said, I'll take both of this out and I'll tell you how I'll take it out. But meanwhile, before I take it out, please go and arrange for some bhojana for him, for food for me. So as soon as he said that, Yudhishthira requested him. He straight away, he didn't wait for bail, etc. He said, you must stay back and have bhiksha with us. We will arrange. Please come with us to Hastinapura. You can have bhiksha. So he said, okay, now here's what I will do. I will take this reed. Here there were some reeds growing there or whatever. I will shoot this reed. I will charge it with some mantra. I'll shoot this reed on that bale. It will go hit that bale and stick there. Then I'll take another reed and shoot that on this reed. It will go and stick into that reed on top. Then I'll take another reed and hit that reed and think. Then finally, when it comes to top, we can pull it out. Wow. What is that? So he said, okay, give me. So they brought the reeds. So he took one and third. He had created that thing and he pulled it out. He said, there you are. Here's your bale. They were wide-eyed with astonishment and they said, now what about the ring? Please, quickly, Shigram, get the ring also out. So he said, okay, give me a bale. Give me a reed. He took that reed. One shot he hit that mudrika, that ring. It went zoom down, hit the ring, took the ring and bounced back out with the ring. He caught that, gave that mudrika also and take it. So these kids said, Abhivade. Abhivadayam Brahman Naitadanyesha Vidyate Kosikasyasi Janimo Vayam Kim Karavamahe. So we bow to you, O Brahman. We have not seen anybody who can do this. Who are you, sir? Kasyasi, whose son are you? What can we do for you? They asked him. So in our tradition, generally speaking, who are you matters less than whose son are you. I mean, that's how you introduce yourself, okay? I'm so-and-so's son. If you had gone to Kanchipuram and met Parmacharya in those days, he'll say, whose son are you? Whose grandson are you? Did you know your great-grandfather, what he was like this and he was like that, etc. There are many people. There are people who didn't know their native place and he said, or they knew it wrong and he said, you're not from there, you're actually from somewhere else. One of them is here in this room. So like that, so he says, whose son are you? All that. So now, how can we be of service to you? The children asked. He said, please do one thing. Please go and tell Bhishmacharya, your Bhishma. your grandfather or whatever, what you saw here, and tell him, describe me to him. He was like this, like this. He will know who I am. So they went. They told, our bale fell and this one, an old man, one Brahmin came and he shot, he took it out and he did this, he's old, he's looking distressed, they told him. Bhishma said, that is Dronacharya. That can only be Drona, nobody else can do this. And Bhishma in his mind was also wanting that, these people had reached a certain stage of proficiency in their training. With Kripacharya, he wanted them to go to some advanced level training. He was thinking, who is the right person for it? And now Dronacharya had walked in by himself. He was very happy. He said, for Dronacharya, he can't send somebody. He has to come himself. So he said, I am coming. So he came himself running all the way with traditional welcome and all that. And he welcomed Dronacharya. And he said, please, I am so happy to see you here. And please tell me, what brings you here? What can we do for you? What is Agama Karanam? So now, we will go to some background on Drona, and then we'll come back to this question that he had answered. That question that was asked by Bhishma to Drona. So, who is Drona? So, we have to start from the father only. Na? Ganga Dwaram Pratimahan Babhuva Bhagavan Rishi Bharadvaja iti khyata satatam samsidavrata. Ganga Dwaram in what is called modern Haridwar. There was a Rishi, Bhagavan Rishi, a great Rishi called Bharadvaja, a man of great austerities. Terrific Rishi. With other Rishis, he used to stay there. One day he had to do a very special yajna. A very special yajna. So before performing the yajna, he went to the Ganges there to have a bath and then come to do the yajna. So he along with Maharishis went towards the river Ganges to have a bath. And what does he see? Now Indra is busy in his work or whatever happened. So there, as the destiny would have it, he was greeted by destiny in the form of an Apsara of name Gritachi. Now, she was there. She just had finished her bath and she was changing her dress or whatever. She was there at that time. Now, there are Apsaras and there are Apsaras. And some of these Apsaras are, the top of the line. Ramba, Urvashi, Menaka. Gritachi is one of them. Gritachi is absolutely among the absolutely most beautiful of Apsaras. She was there, Gritachi. And she was just, she was just changing her dress and all that. She was there. Rupa Yavana Sampanna Madadraptam Madalasam. She was beautiful, she was young. And on top of that, Madadraptam Madalasam. She was intoxicated with her own beauty. Tossing her head, tossing her hair, all of that. She was fully there. Banks of the Ganges. Bharadvaja Muni, like Sharadvan, for a moment, he was absorbed in that sight. There his son was born. He was carrying one Kalasha vessel, Drona Kalasha it's called. So the child was born right there in that Drona. So that child was called Drona. It was the Yajna Kalasha that he had. Drona was born. So Gritachi went. She's come for a bath, she's gone. Now, Drona was born. Now he learnt, he was a great child, Bharadvaja's son. He learnt the Veda and the Vedangas, etc. from his father. Bharadvaja was also the greatest of Astravetas. He knew all the Astravidya, etc. And one of Bharadvaja's students was a great rishi called Agnivesha. So he had taught Agnivesha. Agnivesha is actually Sakshat, the son of Agni Bhagavan himself. He was Agni's son. To Agnivesha, Bharadvaja Muni had taught the Agneya Astra itself. So he taught him the Agneya Astra. So Agnivesha had his own ashram. So in this, now Bharadvaja sent Drona to learn from Agnivesha. Agnivesha taught his guru's son, Drona, what he had learned from the guru as well. So Astra Vidya, including Agneya Astra, etc. And as it happened, in that ashrama of Agnivesha, there are other students. There were many students coming from other places. And one of them was the son of, the king of Panchala. There's a king in Panchala of name Prishata, who was a good friend of Drona's father. When Bharadvaja sent his son Drona to Agnivesha for studies, the king Prishata of Panchala also decided to send his son, which was Drupada, to study in the same Gurukulam. So Drupada was there, Drona was there, they were in the same Gurukulam of Agnivesha learning, and they became good friends. They were very close friends, and they were same age, learned together. One fine day, King Prishata died, that is, the king of Panchala died, and Drupada was, he had already finished his education, he was appointed the king, etc. Meanwhile, here, Bharadwaja Muni, Drona's father, also died. So Drona didn't have a father now, and he was in Agnivesha's ashram. So he continued there, staying in Agnivesha's ashram, his guru's ashram, and he did terrific tapasya. Agnivesha also either passed away or went away somewhere. Anyway, so he, by great tapasya, Drona burnt all his own sins, etc. And his fame as a tapasvi, as a up and coming rishi, so to say, was also spreading across the land. And he was a young man now, Drona. And one day, the Pitrus, that is his forefathers, put a prerana into his mind. They put a desire in his mind that they wanted him to further the progeny. So one of the obligations that a son has is to further the progeny. So for which he has to get married. So Drona then decided he must have consulted some rishis, and they pointed out that Kripacharya, there's a man in Hastinapura, he's got a sister called Kripi, and you can marry her. So he went and sought her hand. Kripacharya agreed, and he married her. So Drona married Kripacharya's sister. And they then had a baby boy. Sajaptamatro Vyanadad Yadaivochaishrava. As soon as the baby was born, he neighed like a horse. I mean, as a horse, like Uchchaishravas, the horse of Indra. Like that, one massive horse neigh he gave, that boy. Like when Duryodhana was born, he brayed like a donkey. So, like that, this boy, when he was born, he neighed like a horse. So, hearing this voice, after this boy neighed like a horse, there was a voice from the sky, a Shariri voice, announced that this boy has filled the sky with his crying with the sounds of a horse neighing. So therefore he will be renowned in the whole world by the name Ashwathama. So there was Ashwathama, he had been born. It's got nothing to do with Bharatam. It's a little side story, real life. It happened in a small village near Kumbakonam. One of my friends had gone. He had a good friend who was friend meaning acquaintance, who had a Stapati, who was a temple architect. So there was some small village temple of Shasta, that is Ayyappan, that was being renovated in that place, and Kumbhabhishekam was being done. So this Stapati had invited my friend also to come, Shankar. So he had gone there. My friend is quite interested in Vedas and Vedic chanting and all that. So he had also interested in all kinds of studies of traditional arts and Shastra. So he had gone there with him for just to see this little Kumbhabhishekam of the temple. Nice temple in the village, in the fields, etc. And as would be there in village temples, along with the little temple of Ayyappan, there is also outside in the courtyard of the temple, there is a horse. There is a horse, meaning horse pratima. That means a statue of a horse. Along with that, there will be one man standing and dog. This you will find in villages, etc. So it was there. So it's a part of the temple. It's temple. So they are doing all the homam, etc. After which they will be doing the Kumbhabhishekam. So the homams are going on, the kalashams are being charged, the waters are being charged, all that. So this horse also was there. Something struck my friend, and he requested them that for the sake of the horse, why don't you also chant the one of the sutrams of Veda called the Dadikravana Sutram. So he requested them to chant, and they knew, they were seasoned by Vedic Pandits, so they chanted that as well. So when they finished chanting and all that, and then something was given to the Yajamanas, and they had to go and give it for the offering into the fire. So something was come and given to my friend, and as soon as he received it, from nowhere there was some pony or something came from nowhere, and it started neighing at him. So he said, "My God, I couldn't believe it." So I remembered that suddenly. Now this back here, our man Ashwathama has been born, and Drona is extremely overjoyed. A baby boy has been born. But his own life is has to continue. So Dhanurveda Abhyasa, his own Abhyasa he was doing. His Dhanurveda Abhyasa and Tapasya, etc. But then you see, He was a poor man. He was not a rich man, Drona. He was a poor man, and now a family man. He had a baby boy as well. So then he came to know that he heard the news that Jamadagni Putra Parashurama, the great Parashurama, was giving away all his wealth and going off for tapasya, and so he quickly rushed there. But by the time he had gone to Mahendra Parvata, so he went to Mahendra Parvata and he went to the presence of Parashurama. And Parashurama, world renowned now as a Sarvajnanavid, Sarvashastra Pratam Varaha. He knew all Jnana, he knew all Astras. There's nobody who knew more Astra Vidya than Parashurama. That much he was there. Total knowledge of Dhanurvedya, Divyastram. So Drona decided that he should go and acquire this Jnanam from Parashurama. That would be the main thing in his mind. So he went there and also learned Niti Shastram from him, the art of politics, statesmanship, etc. His mind was in that direction. So he wanted to learn that from Parashurama. So he went to the Mahendra Parvata and he went there and he introduced himself as belong to Angirasa Gotra. So your name actually comes in the end when you introduce yourself. My father is so and so, my Gotra is so and so. Like you do Abhivadi Vasishta Maitra, like that you say. So he said that, I have all that. And I have been born to Bharadwaj Rishi. And with him, Ayonijam, I have not been born from naturally from a mother or something. I was born in a Kalasham, Ayonija. I am like that. Like Sita was born in the field. She is called Ayonija. Like that I have been born. Like Draupadi was born from the fire. Like that. So she was born. And I have come, Agatam Vittakamam Vam Vidhi Dronam Dujashaba. Know me to be Drona. My name is Drona. And I have come here with a desire for wealth. So what he introduced himself to Parashurama. Parashurama said, Swagatam. Swagatam te. I welcome you. Oh, Dvijashrestha, tell me what you want. So he said, I want that wealth which can never deplete. Anantam Dhanam. Parashurama said, oh Tapasvi, whatever I had in terms of gold or wealth or cattle, I have already gifted away. Nothing is left with me now. All the lands that I had conquered, the whole earth that I had conquered, I gave it off in Dana to Kashyapa Rishi. I given it to Kashyapa. Now all that is left with me is this body of mine and my Astra Vidya. What of this do you desire? Drona said, I'll be happy to receive your Astra Vidya. So Parashurama said, Tathastu. And he gave him Upadesha of all the mantras, etc. Now coming back to this, now Drona has come to Hastinapura. And Bhishma has gone there to welcome him. And as requested, and he said, Agatam Kim Karanam, what brings you here, sir? Please tell me. So Drona tells Bhishma, it's like this, Achyuta, oh you Bhishma, sir, Bhishma who never falls from your status of the highest, you are Achyuta. You know that I was a student of Rishi Agnivesha, I was in the Gurukulam of Rishi Agnivesha, and there I was Brahmachari, Vinitatma, Jatilo Bahula Sama, Avasam Suchiram Datra Guru Shushushane. I was in my ashrama of my Guru, I was a Brahmachari, Vinitatma, I was a humble student, I was Jatilam, I had matted hair, and I was many years I was there in that Bahula Asama. Many years I was learning from my teacher and serving him. Guru Shushushane Rata, I was fully devoted to the service of my teacher. At that time, along with me, there was a Panchal Rajakumara, Rajaputra Yagyasena Drupada, Mahabala Drupada, man of great strength, this prince of Panchala Desha. He was my co-student. He was also staying in the ashrama. He was also learning Dhanurveda. And he became a very dear friend of mine. He was Upakari, he was Priya. He used to help me. He was Upakari. He was Priya, he was very dear to me. We were very dear friends. We were together all the time in the ashrama. We used to play together. We used to learn together. We were like that. Balyat Prabhriti, from my childhood. Balyat Prabhriti Gauravya Sahadhenameva Same Saka Sada Tatra Priyavadi Priyankara. From my very childhood, We studied together, everything we did together. He was my friend, Sakha, Priyavadi. He used to talk sweetly. Priyankara, he used to do nice things for me. One day he told me, Drona, you know that I am my dear son. I am the Atyanta Priya Putra of my father. My father is a king. I am his dearest son. You know, I've known a few people to say that. So it's interesting. I am the dearest son. So he said that. I am the dearest son. And whenever my father anoints me as the king, one day will come, he will anoint me as the king. Mostly kings will anoint their son as the king, and then they will retire and go to the forest for their tapasya, and they will give up their body in the forest. It's standardly how kings used to do in those days. They become a Rajarshi and give up their body. This is how it will be. Now, when he gives me this kingdom, then my friend, Sakhe, Tadbhogyam Bhavita, that kingdom, as much as mine, it is yours. All that I enjoy, all my wealth, mama bhogascha vittam cha twadadhinam. It's all yours. All the happiness I have, sukham, yours. I promise. Shapat. I give you this promise, my friend. And he says, I was so happy to hear this from my friend. Thereupon he completed his studies and I honored him. We all honored him when he completed his studies and left in ceremony for Panchala Desham, etc. But I was busy here in my ashrama, and by Pitru Prerana I married Kripi, that is the sister of Kripa. She is a Yashaswini. He praises her to Bhishma. Prashaswini, she is of great glory. Gautami, she is Gautama's daughter. Gautami, of great glory. Natikeshim, Mahapranyam, Mahavratam, Agnihotre, Satre, Dame, Satasamratam. So he says she is Mahapranyam, so extremely intelligent. It's a broad-minded man. Huh? He's describing his wife. He based in very glorious terms that she is extremely knowledgeable, extremely intelligent, Mahapragyam, Mahavratam. She is telling Bhishma all this. Mahavratam, she does severe vratams, austerities, etc. And in my Agnihotra and in all the yagya that I do, she is there to help. She is there to participate in my Dharma Yatra. And she herself has got her senses and mind under total control. And one more small gem he also led to. She's Nati Keshim. Nati Keshim is, she doesn't have too much hair. Huh? I mean, she's got a little less hair. So all that he tells Bhishmacharya and said and then Ashwathama was born, my child was born, glorious child, shining like the sun, his incredible valor, etc. And I was so happy when he was born, got so much joy when my son was born, just like my father got so much joy when I was born, etc. But the only problem is I was in poverty. I was deep in poverty. And one day I saw that my child, Ashwathama, and he was playing with his other children who were his age mates, and they were all children of very wealthy, rishi kind of people who had a lot of cows and all that. So they had plenty of milk. So these children were having milk, and my son didn't have milk. He saw them having milk, and he started creating a racket saying, I also want to have milk, I also want to have milk. And my heart sank because I had no cow, I had no milk to give my child. And this child was crying, I want milk. And I didn't know what to do. My eyes dimmed, and I couldn't see the directions. I didn't know what to look, where to look, etc. Then I decided that I should go and somehow do yachana. What can I do as a brahmana? I can do yachana. I'll go do yachana. I'll beg for somebody for a cow, so that I can also have a cow at home. But I should not do so from another brahmana who is like me. So therefore he will need that cow for his own Agnihotra. I should go to somebody who's got many cows, so I can ask him. So he will give me one cow. So I went that day looking around, asking, but nobody gave me. So by the time I came in the evening, nothing. I have empty-handed. I came. My child was still there. Then I found at that time, these other kids are all playing with my child and they were teasing him. They were up to total mischief. They had found that this kid wanted milk, so they decided to do mischief upon him. So they brought water, and they mixed it with atta, wheat, and they made white water and they said, here, have some milk. And my baby boy, child, it was having that milk and thinking it had real, had Shiram, Pimam, I have drunk milk, I was drunk milk, or dancing in joy as if it had drunk real milk. I felt so bad, so humiliated to see these kids do that to my son. It was such a terrible thing for me. I didn't know what to do. And I said, think to myself, think Drona Madhaninam. Knowing me to be a Daridra, everybody has left me. As for me, I can live without wealth, I can live without eating, I can be having upavasa, etc. And however, I cannot go and work for another man for money. That I cannot do. My self-respect will not allow me to do. But I can do what my dharma allows me to do. I can go for yachana, I can do that, I can teach. Those things I can do. Now, there is my friend, Panchala. He is the king. And he has offered me when I was a child. So he says, I'll come. He takes his son, his wife, both, goes across to Panchala, to the king Drupada, and in his old fashion that he was, and like he was as a friend, he greets him and says, surely you will not tell me that you don't remember me. Remember what you promised. I have come for that and all that. He tells Drupada, the king. Drupada says, who the hell has walked in here? Extremely angry he becomes seeing this man come in like this, disturbing the etiquette and the great glory of his darbar. Some fellow walking in like this, he knows who he is, but he doesn't think that. So his eyes turn red, his eyebrows become twisted, he becomes angry, and he's now deluded by wealth and power. He's king, and he says, "Oh Brahmana, your brain has lost its equilibrium or what? You become ashuddha. You have become impure in your thinking. Obviously, your education you have not completed. Huh? You have no samskara. There's no refinement in you. You have no bloody maturity. You walk into my office and you dare to come and say, I am your friend. Do you know who I am? What audacity do you have? Don't you know that was when we were children. With long time has passed, and with time, friendship goes away. Right? Now, where are you and where am I? You must know that friendship is among equals. A scholar will make friends with a scholar. A warrior will be friends with a warrior. A rathi will make friends with another rathi. Great kings do not make friends with daridras like you. Poverty-stricken people like you. A great shura will not make friends with a kleba, an important guy. He will not make friends with him. What are you trying to say? What do you desire by coming and making this scene out here? Only when there is equality of wealth, equality of status, then we can talk about equality in terms of friendship or in terms of marriage, etc. Otherwise, I have no knowledge. I have no memory of what you speak. I don't remember anything, telling you anything, etc. He tells him. He's shocked. Drona is standing there. And then he went on like this and said, I can do one thing for you. Ekaratram tu de brahman kamam dasyami bhojanam. I can put you up tonight and give you food for tonight. Oh Brahmana, I'll give you dinner. Tonight, you can have something to eat. Proceed after that. Go away. Dronacharya tells Bhishma all this. He tells him, I got up with my son and my wife and I walked out. I walked out, but as I walked out, I made a vow in my mind. This shall be avenged. This shall be avenged. And it will be done through my shishyas, my students. So, this is how I have come here. Through my Gunavan Shishyas, I will avenge that. Now, O Bhishmacharya, he is coming to the end of it. He asks him, tell me what I can do for you. Drona asked Bhishmacharya what I can do for you. Bhishma said, Hastinapura is yours. This entire kingdom is yours. Please train the princes in Dhanurveda and all that, Astra Shastra. Please stay here with all honor. Please ask whatever you want, it will be provided. Please stay here with happiness. Please be their teacher. Whatever wealth, whatever power, whatever country the Kauravas have, that is yours. You are the master. We are yours. All of us are yours. All Kauravas are now subordinate to you. Your command, we will do. Please do us the greatest favor of residing in this kingdom, which is yours. So, Dronacharya settled there, he started teaching the children, and once when he was alone with the children, he called all of them, all the Kauravas and Pandavas, and said, "Oh princess, I want to ask you a question. I have one job that needs to get done. Which one of you will do it for me? After learning Astra Vidya from me, you people will have to fulfill that desire for me. Tell me what you think about this. After you finish your studies, I want you to do one thing for me. Will you do it?" He asked these children. Vaishambhana tells Janmejaya, on hearing this request, all the Kauravas kept quiet. What is he going to ask? Huh? Somebody calls you and tells you, "I'm going to tell you something you should not tell anybody else." This guy. Okay, I won't tell anybody else. As soon as he goes, you tell somebody. So, our father says, "No, should never tell your mother," and all that. What will you do? A child, the father says, "You don't tell your mother." The mother will know if you tell her or not. You get into bad trouble with her. So like that, he tells him that, will you do something? They don't know. But one person, Arjuna, says, without hesitation, I'll fulfill it, whatever it is that you ask. Drona looks at that child, he's so happy, so happy. He picks him up, he hugs him, sniffs his head, and weeps. We end there, but we said there was this boy who had also taught. That was Ashwathama. So what happened was, when Drona had come back walked out of Drupada's court with his wife and son, he had walked out, he had nowhere to go. So he went to Kripacharya's house, his brother-in-law. And so he had to, Jivika, he had to stay, but he was staying incognito. Nobody knew Dronacharya was staying there, but the child was there. Nobody knew who it was. Anybody can come in Guru's house, there will be children coming and going. We don't know who it is. Right? So Ashwathama was there. Stay in your in-laws' house, etc. He said, no, you don't do it. So Dronacharya would not be, it's not right for him to be staying in his wife's brother's house and all that. It doesn't work that way. So he was staying there. So this Ashwathama was there at that time. So he was teaching some things to this. He was such a great guy. He was teaching some things to these Pandava children and all that. And Dronacharya was incognito. Nobody knew he was there. And the first time they knew he was there was when that Gulli fell into that well. On that note, we complete this session of the Bharata Katha. Har Nama Parvati Pataye Janaki Kanta Smaranam Gopika Jivana Smaranam Vetrivil Muruganukku Shri Sadguru Swamina Shri Anjaneya Swamina